Why the one MMSDC is important to us as a business, and then why it's important to us as the state of Michigan. So Yunfeng, again, this will be quick, but just a few things to get you grounded on my perspective. Yunfeng Automotive Interiors is actually a joint venture, 70% with Yunfeng Trim Systems and 30% with Adient. And Adient is formerly Johnson Controls. The bit of the background, Yunfeng is actually a part of SAIC, which is the largest OEM in China, and then Hasco, which is a subsidiary of SAIC, which is the largest automotive parts supplier in China. And Yunfeng is a part of Hasco, and then we as a joint venture are a part of that family. So actually with Yunfeng, there's 5 joint ventures: seat systems, safety systems, exterior electronics, and then interiors. And then Adient, formerly Johnson Controls, which has been in the industry, again, Johnson Controls for over 130 years. Actually got into interiors in '96 with the purchase of Prince. That's how actually I came on board into the family. And then in 2015, both companies who had a long-standing relationship in seating decided to do the joint venture in interiors. So 2 strong parents to launch basically the largest automotive interiors company, and we're $10 billion in revenue. We focus on the interior, floor consoles, instrument panels, cockpits, overhead consoles. We work on adjacent products like decorative trim. We as well have strong partners both in these areas as well, like lighting, like air vents. So we do our own vertical integration, and then we actually do have partnerships on the outside. And then considering the whole change in mobility and the radical change that's in front of us, we have technical agreements like with Costal on smart surfaces as well as lightweight solutions and different advanced technologies within manufacturing. So it's a little bit about who we are, our formation, our product. We actually serve, I would say, basically every customer globally, as well as the new entrants into the mobility market, which aren't listed on this screen. And then if you look at our footprint, again, just to give a perspective, we have 116 locations globally, and we're in 20 different countries. We have 33,000 employees. What's important, if you go to the next slide then, is just continuing to narrow it down to us here in Michigan. We have 26 operations in North America, across Canada, the US, and Mexico. But 9 of our locations are based here in Michigan, and both of our tech campuses. So if you ask me if I'm from Detroit, I would say yes, we have a tech campus in Novi. If you ask me if I'm from Holland, I say yes, because we have a tech campus in Holland. And by the way, my family is my home base is actually in Holland, and I'm based out of the tech campus. We have 700 people in Holland, and we have roughly 300 people in Novi in those tech campuses, which really service the market in North America, and then obviously strong interface globally. So why is Michigan important? Why is the one MMSDC important to us? Is because we have a strong presence in Michigan, and our technical leadership are based in Michigan. So I don't dismiss, we do have a small group of engineering team as well in Querétaro, and we continue to build that up as that market continues to grow. Supplier diversity. So we have a long history, particularly with our heritage from the Johnson Controls side. Back in '93, we launched our first supplier diversity leader, manager, and then director. Reginald Layton actually led the process for years as a part of the Formation Automotive. And John Barth, who was our president at one time, was actually the chairman of the board for the MMSDC at one point as well. A long history in the process, so when we formed in the joint venture, one of the first things we did was hire Jack Lanka. And so Jack, if you can raise your hand, Jack leads supplier diversity for Yunfeng, and make sure that we had an accurate understanding of why supplier diversity is important from the CEO level. It's important that you have most senior level understanding and committing to supplier diversity, which we have. So what's interesting is we actually have two CEOs, both based in Shanghai. One is Johannes Roders and the other is Wu Wenzhong. And both committed and understand why supplier diversity is important to our business, not only in North America, but really in our footprint globally. And then we have a very defined process. And I would tell you, it had its heritage and has its heritage with Johnson Controls. We've continued to refine it underneath Jack's leadership, and I appreciate Jack really driving this with our commodity teams. We do consistent reviews monthly as part of our global review process as well. So we have engagement with the global team that's tracked, measured, and Jack works very closely with the MMSDC. So we look at areas where we have gaps in our own spend, and Jack interfaces with our team here in the MMSDC on where we see opportunities to connect minority suppliers for where those opportunities are, as he works with our commodity managers. So the MMSDC is really important because most of our procurement staff is either based between Novi and Holland, based here in Michigan. Which really gets me to the core of what I wanted to actually just take a few minutes to talk about this morning and why the one MMSDC is so important. So our mission as a board member on the MMSDC is really to drive development and economic growth in minority businesses. And the One MMSDC initiative is really about taking the recognized strength of the MMSDC in Southeast Michigan and making sure that we actually carry it to the state overall. If you look at our history here in Michigan, because of the strong automotive presence and the fact that the automotive companies were really early embraced supplier diversity, they got it. They understood how important it is to their business, supplier diversity, and they drove supplier diversity. They were the early, I would call it, owners and understanding of why it was important. And that's why, if you look at the history of the MMSDC, of the board, and the work as a council, it's been strong on this side of the state, less so outside of Michigan. And I know it, right? My family lives in Holland, I live in Holland. Several of us on the board talk often about how, I would say from some time back, about how we needed to expand. Early on, in my first term on the board, so this is my second term, I had the opportunity to be part of a group. We did a demographic and industry study. And we looked at the demographics, particularly in the state of Michigan, and then we looked at all the industry in the state of Michigan and said, where are we not impacting and supporting businesses? But if you look at the demographics, 83% of minority population in Michigan is really in 10 counties. And of those 10 counties, only 4 are based here in Southeast Michigan. So if we really only stay focused in Southeast Michigan, we really miss a big part of our diverse population. And so this is why one MMSDC is really important. And Michelle, I wish she was here. She deserves the credit. She absolutely understands it and is driving it. She personally owns it, and it's a strong initiative for the board, which I'm really delighted that I had the opportunity to serve on. With the hiring of Andrew, who kicked us off this morning, Andrew came on board last year, our Vice President of Marketing and Communications. For West and Mid-Michigan has been a close ally and support. A great hire to actually develop and build the presence of the MMSDC across the state. So really welcoming Andrew on board. And with Andrew on board, we've then now begun to put structures in place. So we partnered with Ford Motor Company. Ford has a Mentor Me program. So Gentex, Herman Miller, and Yunfeng, with Ford Motor Company, we conducted a Mentor Me mid-year last year. I thought was actually a really good session where we had a selection of MBEs that met with the senior leaders of those 4 companies. And it was a 2.5, 3-hour session. Really a strong in-depth session just going through the business strategy, business structure. It was just time for the MBE to ask questions of help me understand, here's what our objectives are, here's what we're focused on. A really good investment for both the corporations and the MBEs together. Appreciate Jackie Watt's leadership from Ford Motor Company. A really good session with the team. We had a speaker series last year held in Grand Rapids. We had Ralph G. Moore, author, presenter, speak on the positive impact of supplier diversity. Well attended. It was a great session. We're working on another session here this fall. It'll be right around the Art Prize event. And so that's in the works. So the date's not been finalized yet, but I would expect here in the next several weeks we'll have the date finalized. And I encourage you to join. And we're working through that process right now. Additionally, the board, back to Michelle's commitment, our strategic planning session's coming up here. Last year, the board met on the west side. This year again, the strategic planning session will be on the west side of the state. Why? Being intentional to drive the good work that we've done as an MMSDC on the east side of the state to make sure we bring it across and make it be a complete approach from a one Michigan approach. So, yeah, I like Andrew's comment in the beginning. Maybe MMSDC should just be termed the one MMSDC. Back to the intentionality of really this council is really focused on the state overall and doing a lot of work to make sure and being intentional to make sure that we drive it that way. I would encourage you, if you're based on the east side, like I am, if you're based on the west side, like I am, to support the one MMSDC. And be engaged in the activity that we're about as we really drive the change in structure and impact, really driving the development and economic growth for minority businesses. So thank you so much for the opportunity.